Hello Home Slices, it's Kiera with Home Slice Adulting, and I am coming to you with my review of Love and Hip Hop Miami Season 1 Episode 9, which is titled Crossroads. Before we get started, I do want to apologize for this video being late. As I mentioned in my Real Housewives of Atlanta review, I did some traveling this week. I was in Houston, Seattle, and Austin, and I just got back to Louisiana on yesterday, so I'm doing this kind of late, but hopefully you guys don't mind. And you know some of the greatest things in the world are worth waiting for, so get ready for this review. We start off with, let's talk about Baby Blue and Scrappy. So they're boxing and Baby Blue starts running from Scrappy because we all know that Scrappy got his name because he fights a lot. So I wouldn't want to be in the ring with him. But nonetheless, it's funny because Baby Blue kind of looks like a mini version of Scrappy while they're, boxing. But moving on, they start talking about Shay, and Scrappy was not aware about Shay dating Pleasure P. So Baby Blue is opening his mouth and creating more problems for Shay, once again. And Baby Blue invites Scrappy to the boot camp so that they, Shay and Scrappy can get back on the same page. Next, we'll talk about the incident at Shay J Fitz. They're doing the little boot camp. And first off, I want to say big ups is essentially what I'm trying to say to Shay for trying to do something more than just be a reality star and trying to do something for herself besides make a fool out of herself with these Negroes on TV. But moving on, Baby Blue is wearing a bunch of clothes to be working out, and he's being 100% inappropriate by watching Michelle Pooch's butt too closely. Shay J's hair, Shay's hair looks like she's a creature from Avatar, and I hate it. But Shay is not happy to see Scrappy, and Kitty Litter and Scrappy are working together, as was seen on Snapchat. She called her Kitty Litter, I didn't, but I think it's funny. So Scrappy feels that Shay was not being honest about her relationship status when he just abruptly re-entered her life and moved to the same place that she had moved. And Shay clears that up. When Scrappy came back into her life, she and Pleasure had already broken up. And here's the deal. I 100% get why Shay withheld that she was in a relationship with Pleasure P. Because if anybody knows anything about having an old faithful, it's that old faithful pops back into your life at the most inopportune times. For instance, in Shay J's, why do I keep calling her Shay J's? In Shay's particular situation, she had just broken up with Pleasure P, and if Scrappy knew that she had just broken up with a longtime boyfriend, he could have capitalized on her vulnerability and used that to his advantage to try to get back with Shay. So I think she did the appropriate thing in guarding her heart from that. But nonetheless, Shay does not owe him an explanation, considering how you ruined her life several years ago, and they are not dating. So, moving on, Shay did the right thing in my eyes. Now, Shay is over it, and she's fed up, and she's talking about him, and I don't know if it was on the bonus features that are on VH1.com, but somebody was saying how it was not appropriate for Shay, who claims she wants to help people lose weight, to be talking about how overweight Scrappy was. And the whole time on this show, she has been making fat jokes. So it does not help her brand to be making fun of people who are overweight if her goal is to make money off of people who are overweight. That's counterintuitive and counterproductive, Shay, just letting you know. But moving on, Shay goes to Scrappy. Well, Blue comes over and tries to calm everything down and tells Shay to apologize and basically postpone the discussion to another time. Scrappy tries to explain, and then Blue tells him to apologize. So, Blue is just being the person who helps people to reconcile, the little peacemaker. Now, Scrappy does not answer about Chinese Kitty. Shay feels that Scrappy working with Chinese Kitty is a betrayal, and Shay was basically using that as a test to see where his head was at with their friendship. Now, I don't think it's fair that Shay is trying to ask Scrappy to forego money to forgo an opportunity with somebody just because she doesn't like her, particularly considering how they don't have much of a relationship or are trying to rekindle a friendship. But I think she was just testing the waters, and she got the answer that she wanted. And, you know, good for her, because Scrappy's not very good for her. But moving on, Shay's over it, and she says she's glad he cut the worms off of his head, which was pretty funny to me. Now, next, we will talk about the whole situation with Michelle Pooch. Now, Michelle Pooch has been a DJ / party promoter or whatever for some years, but she's always really been into music, and she's releasing this little single called Let It Burn to the 15 people who are in that little club area. Malik claims that he is openly gay now, and he just feels so relieved about it. And but here comes Prince, who's gonna mess things up for him. Now, here's the deal. I am not gay. I have gay friends, but I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about what it's like to be closeted and have to come out and how that impacts your life. But let me tell you something. I'm under the impression that because of how Malik reacted to this surprise that Prince put on at Michelle Pooch's party, that he is not as comfortable or relieved about being openly gay as he claims he is. Because at the party, before Prince had his little interruption, he told Simply Jess and Michelle Pooch that he is openly gay now, and, you know, he's happy that he can be in a relationship with a man and be open about it, and, you know, it's a weight off his shoulders and all this stuff. Then here comes Prince while Michelle Pooch is playing her song. I didn't really care for it. Here's the thing, a lot of these artists on this show, I can't tell if they're rappers or singers, and that annoys me. Like, I'm not saying that a person cannot be both, but you can't be both at the same time. Like, Lauryn Hill could rap and she could sing, she could do it on the same song, but she could not do it at the same time. So these rappers that rap in a singing fashion, or these singers that sing in a rapping fashion, I don't like that. I feel like, what are you? Okay, but anyways, moving on. I didn't really like the song, but while she's playing her song, Prince has a gay Wakanda parade with the drummer dressed up like Sonic the Hedgehog that came in there playing the drums and disrupting the party. And because I don't like Michelle Pooch, I feel like it was an interesting spectacle. The fact that he had queens, you know, voguing in the little parade was, I don't know how appropriate that was. I don't know. But I felt like it was very childish, and I felt that it was, you know, kind of tit for tat with the way that he felt that Michelle Pooch, you know, messed up his event. But for him to try to get revenge on her, I didn't really like that. I felt like it was very childish, and he needs to, you know, find a better way to use his time. But moving on, Malik is making this about himself, and he feels as if telling Prince that he was gay, you know, as his first step towards being an openly gay man was a mistake. Now, Prince says, and I believe that Prince, you know, is telling the truth, that he did not know that Malik was going to be there. But in addition to that, this being the gay Wakanda parade has nothing to do with Malik being there. Malik took it as like a personal attack. Like, he brought these people here to show the world that I hang out with gay people, and this is not how I party. Malik, this is not about you. Somebody who gets this upset over something that was not about them cannot be that comfortable being open about their sexuality after having come out the closet. And this is why I know for sure that Malik is not as comfortable as he's saying he is. And even though I am not a member of the LGBTQ community, I feel like I can say with confidence that he's doing a disservice to people who are watching him by pretending to be okay with coming out. I feel like if people are not real about their experiences, it hurts people who are trying to gain the courage to come out. I hope that makes sense, and I'm speaking as I guess an ally of the community, but don't lie about your experience, because that is not being realistic with people who may need help in that area. Malik says the F word, which we have heard him say before, which is inappropriate. And Prince basically outs Malik after Malik says that word. And he's telling the people that he hired, don't worry about him saying that inappropriate word that is hurtful to people of the LGBTQ community, because he is a part of that community himself. So essentially, if the people at the party didn't know that Malik was gay, even though he's openly gay now, they do now. I feel like Prince may have been within his right to do that in that instance. But moving on, Malik is making this about him and nobody cares about it. Lastly, we will talk about this whole situation with Bobby, Trina, and everybody else who was involved. So we see that Bobby is doing an interview at the Famous and Uncensored, a podcast with Trick Daddy featuring, you know, Super Cindy. He's into the music and Super Cindy is into the gossip. So apparently it works. And the fact that Trick Daddy is doing something besides trying to make this whack Trina and Trick Daddy CD in 2018 is refreshing to know that he's has something else that he can do besides make a CD that may or may not sell anything. But moving on, Bobby Lights and Chip Drill are premiering Bobby's new single called Wait Up. It's the premiere of the song. He wants to have a release party, and I thought Bobby was a rapper, but he was singing on the song, which is fine. He has an okay voice. The song reminded me a lot of Ray J, and I don't like Ray J's music, but I felt like the way the song was produced, he has some potential. So I'm kind of interested to hear more of his music, kinda. Okay. But moving on, Trick Daddy applauds Bobby, which is nice. Trick Daddy has been known for saying stupid things out of his mouth previously, particularly about women of brown races. I mean, black people, black women. And the fact that he is applauding Bobby for being an open member of a minority community was a little better to see him in a little bit of a different light, because we all know that hip hop artists, particularly black men, can be very homophobic. So to see him be to applaud Bobby for that was refreshing, considering what we know about Trick Daddy and how ignorant he is. Now, Trick Daddy ends up leaving for whatever reason, and after he leaves, Bobby just decides to badmouth Trina. I am not one who is okay with people discussing family issues in mixed company. I don't like that. So I feel that Bobby is not right for using a public forum to discuss their family issues, the same way that Miami Tip was not here for it. Miami Tip says that she asked Bobby a question, kind of rhetorical almost. Do you think that you have done enough or shown Trina enough for her to support you? And we find out a little bit later about that situation, but we'll talk about that later. And then after the podcast is over, Miami Tip gets mad and she gets emotional because Bobby looks to everybody else for help when Miami Tip is the person that everybody looks to for help. And she said that, you know, she was upset that Bobby was bad-mouthing Trina because Trina has been helping Miami Tip by allowing her to open up shows for her, and that she's trying to transition to music so that she can stop stripping, because she doesn't feel like that's the best image for her child to see that that's what she does, and she uses the money from stripping to produce music. And Bobby goes into the studio and uses the studio time that she paid for to help his dreams come true. I don't know what kind of friend that is, but I don't know if I would allow somebody else to make music on my dime. I don't know if I would be willing to do that. So they must have been friends for a long time or something, because let me tell you, it wouldn't be me. But she gets real mad that Bobby is looking for everybody else to help him with his career, and that he's relying on her for studio time. Next, we'll talk about Jeff, he's getting into swimwear design, and he's hanging out with some swimwear designer who's designed swimwear for a bunch of celebrities, and he's doing some modeling. And Tip shows up to talk to Jeff and try to get him to smooth things over with Bobby. Bobby, you know, because he felt like Trina wasn't supporting him, Miami Tip felt like it was the right thing for her to do to get involved in their business, which I'm not necessarily here for. But she wanted Jeff to come out and support him since he felt a lack of support from Trina. So Tip invites Jeff, and he feels like, you know, I'll have to think about it, which is totally understandable. Next up, we see Joy and Trina at a pole dancing class, and afterwards Joy asks Trina about Raymond, and Trina is very hesitant about it. Trina doesn't want Joy to be with Pleasure P, understandably so, because he is I don't like him. I have a lot of names I can call him, but I do not like him at all. Joy wants Trina to go to the release party for Bobby, and she wants Trina to give Bobby a chance, and Trina says she'll think about it. So it's time for Bobby's single release party, and Bobby is so happy to see Trina, and Trina is impressed with his ability, because to me, the way that everybody was talking about the situation between Bobby and Trina is that Bobby only talked about being a musical star and never really showed any progress towards moving to that arena. And that kind of he was just waiting on Trina to help him to get his start, instead of showing Trina that I'm doing this, this, and this to prove that I am on my way to becoming a superstar in the music industry. So I think that he needs work on his stage presence, but whatever. Super Cindy, being the messy person that they said she was, she brings up the podcast situation, and Trina's not happy about that. I wouldn't be happy about it either, because again, mixing, talking about family business and mixed company is not the way to go. But moving on, Trina was being kind of mean when she approached Bobby about it. And she was saying that he's beneath her and he'll never be a star, and she has 8 million records sold and he'll never get to where she is because he doesn't know how to act and he's always trying to ride her coattails. And I felt for the first time that Trina was not justified in talking to Bobby that way. I mean, the fact that he hadn't shown her that he was making real progress in his music career was good enough reason for her not to mess with him like that. But for her to say that he's beneath her, I didn't like that. Now I agree that there is something else that's going on in that family that we do not know about. So moving on, Bobby tries to confront Tip about bringing up the podcast situation, and Jeff shows up to show his support to Bobby. They talk about their relationship a little bit, and I don't care about any of it. But Jeff wants bygones to be bygones, and you know, essentially, just because they broke up and just because Bobby slapped the crap out of him does not mean that he can't be there to support his music career. So moving on. Next, we see Jeff and Malik having a little argument because, and Malik putting Jeff's stuff outside of the apartment because he is mad. And I feel like this is just karma that's happening right now. Now, when you try to steal away somebody else's man and then your man gets stolen back from that other person, or when you're under the impression that the person that you stole him from is stealing that man back, that is karma, Malik. I feel like Malik is too eager to take things from 0 to 100 because he is not comfortable with coming out. And that's something that he brought up, is that he is putting himself out there, the real Malik out there in the streets, the real gay, openly gay Malik out there in the streets, which is putting everything on the line, his career, his connections, for Jeff. And Jeff is out here supporting this dude, this queen, this creature that I stole you from. If I steal you from somebody, you can't ever talk to them again, okay? That's not the way that it works. Jeff is kind of not here for it, and I'm not here for them being together at all. I said on a previous review when Bobby and Jeff broke up that this relationship was going to end poorly, and that I hoped it did. And based on what we saw from the previews, it's not necessarily going to end, but they're going to have a tough time getting past this whole situation, and it's called karma. But moving on. I will say that it was refreshing to not have to see Amara La Negra and Steph LaCour and Veronica Vega and what's Veronica Vega's twin brother's name? Young Hollywood. It was refreshing to not have to see them and deal with their drama. I kind of enjoyed this episode. I didn't think it was necessarily a filler episode. And I feel like next season I don't want to see Veronica Vega, okay? Moving on. But next time on Love and Hip Hop Miami, Veronica steals Young Hollywood away from Amara and a fight ensues. I hope that Amara does something besides talking Spanish and that she actually hits Veronica. Veronica is going to call out the name of her hood, Hialeah, but it looks like the people, the security gets in the way again, and it's like, can y'all just hit each other already? Have like a real fight or something? Because all of this security getting in the way just means that it's delayed and they're gonna fight on a future episode, and I don't have time for that. Moving on. Kiara, Gunplay's girlfriend, says you need to go to rehab or you're gonna lose me. So that's the ultimatum, which I think is a good ultimatum. She's only ultimatuming because you're back on drugs. I mean, I wouldn't want to deal with somebody who was on drugs. So moving on. Next we see Trick is trying to steal Joy's joy. He has no intentions of her being happy without him, and that's the type of dude that you do not need to mess with. Like, that's how I feel that Pleasure P feels about Shay, but he'll never say that because it'll make him look bad. Trick Daddy is old and stupid, and he'll actually say that out loud. Pleasure P won't say that he doesn't want Shay to be happy in her life, but he'll do things to make sure that she isn't. But moving on, Shay finally meets up with Joy and Pleasure P. And I feel like Shay should let this go. I feel like Shay is proving the only point that Pleasure had during their breakup, that she is a little too mercurial, that she's too eager to go from 0 to 100 real quick, and that this looks bad. And Malik and Bombi get into a little argument over Jeff, and Jeff is a coward and is not speaking up or anything, you know, along those lines. So the next episode is going to be pretty interesting. That was it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you have subscribed. Make sure that you click that bell so you can get those notifications. I'm going to try to do more of my videos in this format as opposed to the live format, so that I can stop losing those videos. That's very irritating to me, having to refilm over and over and over again. So I'm going to get back to doing things in this format. For those of you who are waiting for me to do my review on Invisible Man, I'm going to make a confession. I have not finished the book just yet. So you're going to be getting that review late, and I will be announcing my next book for March's book club at the end of that video. Hopefully I can finish the book tonight, and you guys can see that review as soon as possible. Thank you guys for watching, and peace out, home slices.